Welcome to 2025. 2025 promised to be a very interesting year, but I want to say this for you to fully tap into the great opportunities that lies in 2025 for you to embrace success, financial success, business success. It's important for you to invest the time, talent, and the resources to truly understand what it takes to be successful. In today's podcast, Marketing Blueprint, we will cover a number of issues pertinent to leadership. Why leadership? Because leadership is vital to success in every aspect of our lives. So, I have a number of subject matter experts in studio today, and each one of them will give a different perspective on leadership. But just before I invite my team on stage, there's a couple of things that I want to say as to get you prepared for 2025. In 2025, I want you to focus on things like why you work. And I'm going to complete this trend of thought. You work to earn, you earn to save, you save to invest, and you invest to build wealth. So if you want to position yourself to build wealth in 2025, it's important you put all of those meanings behind work. Working to earn, earning to save, saving to invest, and investing to build wealth. The last concept that I'm going to close on before I bring up my panel is listening. You see, very often we listen, but we listen and never learn. We learn and never apply. We apply and never master. And these are tools that you want in your arsenal. These are tools that you want to apply in your life, in your business. So, with that being said, I want you to join me in welcoming a team of dynamic personalities as we get into today's discussion: marketing, blueprint, and leadership. The first person I will invite up is Clement Frank. Hi, Clement. How are you?
I am.
I will next invite Atina. Hi, Atina. How are you? Look at that smile like sunshine. And next, I will also invite Kanchan. And look at that smile too, blushful smile. I must say, it's great to have all of you guys with me today. How has 25 started off for you guys? I trusted it started off on a high note.
Mhm.
I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. Well, for us at Seven Figure Media, it has started off on a high note also. We have been given the Silver Award by Google and YouTube, and that for me is a major accomplishment. But getting into today's conversation, I want to start off on leadership. There's so many aspects to leadership, but I want to talk about leadership in the context of wealth creation. And of course, you guys can look at leadership from different perspective. But before I get into leadership in the context of wealth creation, I want to define what leadership means to me. To be a good leader, you must have a strong sense of self. So if you're lacking with a strong sense of self, that's going to undermine your ability to lead. As a great leader, you need to also aim to have a strong sense of purpose. And to live from purpose means that you have a dream and you have goal and you have vision that is bigger than yourself. And 'cause that purpose is all about giving service, providing service to humanity. Third, it's to be a great leader, it's important to have a strong sense of direction. Having a strong sense of direction, it's vital because you know where you're putting your energy, where you're going to be serving to truly touch and transform people's lives. And there's so much more that I can go into leadership traits that one needs to have to learn, to apply, and master. because in the absence of leadership abilities, you are compromised. And what I see that we have so many million people across the world, they suffer from what I call the leadership deficit syndrome. All right, the leadership deficit syndrome. And that for me is, you know what you want to accomplish. You know why you want to accomplish it. You probably even know how to accomplish it, but you are not taking practical steps to achieve it. And that for me is a dichotomy. And in business, you cannot be a victim of this leadership deficit. You know, as you set out to master the tools and marketing, you cannot afford to be compromised by this leadership deficit. As an individual who wants to build wealth, it's not enough to know you want to build wealth. It's not enough to know how to build wealth. It's equally important to apply yourself and get out there to make it happen. I find when it comes to applying oneself, there's a lot of abstract terminology there. In today's podcast, I will do my best to bring some clarity to what can be referred to as an abstract. Now, there's a couple of things that I want to say quickly before I ask Frank to come in here. Now, we have developed a very unique program that we call the Wealth Builders Toolkit. And what the Wealth Builders Toolkit helps you to understand is how you go about building wealth. And there are six important things that you need to understand. I will just give a quick highlight of those six things that you would need to learn, and then I'll open the floor for some discussion. The Wealth Builders Toolkit talks about wealth builders tools. As a leader, if you don't understand the tools to build wealth, you're compromised. So this program goes into that, so you know how to apply your leadership energy to achieve the objective. You need to understand the tools. Second is we talk about wealth builders processes. And it's important not only to know the tools, but to know the process. Because, for example, you may have a hammer and you want to cut the tree down, and you're using a hammer to cut the tree. Why? Because you don't know the process of cutting that tree down. Perhaps you need an axe or a saw or those heavy duty saw to cut the tree down. And you find very often many persons you have the tool, but because no one show you the process of building wealth, you're stuck in that zone. For example, you may have access to capital, but do you know how to leverage capital as income producing asset and how to minimize risk associated with that? Those are things that this program will go into. So you know about the tools, you know about the process, and then we talk about the systems, wealth builders systems. Uh, Wealth builder systems is where you understand the tools, but you also understand the processes, and the systems allows you to build a transparency framework, consistency framework, accountability framework. And I do believe that all great leaders in the context of wealth creation, you need to understand this. And this brings me now to what I call wealth builders leadership ability. So you need to understand the leadership ability that is necessary to build wealth. And I talk about some of that at the beginning of this program, so I wouldn't go back into that. Next, we talk about wealth builders and your MVO. And this is important because there are many persons that have a falsified notion that you can build wealth without having something of substance and something of value that aligns to people's dreams, hopes, and aspirations. I mean, when you look at Bill Gates, I mean, Bill Gates became wealthy because he was a brain behind computer. He had products and perhaps services that people had needed. That was his MVO, his minimum or most viable offer. So when I talk about the MVO, I'm talking about your minimum or most viable offer. You must have something of value that is relevant to people. And the last point that I want to make here is that you should invest the time to not only know what is your minimum or most viable offer, but you want to master it. Because when you master it, it means that you're taking yourself serious and you're taking the beneficiary serious. Because a master of public relation and marketing, you're quite certain that when you're representing your client, you're helping them to optimize their level of success. As a master at capital access and debt mitigation, you know that you're mastering a process that's going to bring tremendous benefit to the beneficiary because you're perhaps now helping them to access capital at low APR or 0% APR. All right. So this is the degree of mastery that I'm talking about. And I'll go deeper into this as we go into today's program. But I do believe that leadership is vital and to all of this that I've just spoken about. But I just believe that we also need to have more clarity on leadership. So I'll pause here for now and I'll open up to Frank. I'll give Frank a chance to respond. Then I'll come to Kanchan and then Atina. Frank, what are your thoughts on leadership?
Thanks, Gary. My thoughts on leadership, I'm looking at basically leadership wealth creation. Because leadership wealth creation involves guiding individuals, guiding teams, organizations, even nations, in order to generate and sustain economic prosperity. How do you do that? It's through vision, through strategy and innovation and influence. Effective leaders are able to articulate a clear vision of prosperity, where they're aligning efforts towards economic growth. At the same time, prioritizing long-term sustainability over short-term gains. And they usually strategically utilize resources such as natural assets, human capital, technology, in order to maximize, we call it value and assets market trends, to position ventures or we call economies for growth. And we should understand that we can understand that innovation plays a critical role as leaders encourage creativity, as leaders embrace new technologies and adapt strategies that will navigate changing economic, social, and political environments. Empowering others is a cornerstone of wealth creation. Leaders invest in education and they invest in training and skills development. It enables individuals to then contribute to economic growth while at the same time fostering entrepreneurship by providing access to funding, access to mentorship and markets. Ethical stewardship is equally vital, where it ensures that wealth creation respects environment and what we call social boundaries, minimizes harm and promotes fair and inclusive wealth distribution. And so successful leaders also build alliances across various sectors and leverage global networks to pool resources and share their expertise, tapping into the international markets. What also occurs in creating of wealth is financial intelligence, which is another critical component. Because as leaders, we make informed investment decisions. We manage the risks effectively and demonstrate sound financial management. So by exemplifying success and ethical practices. They inspire others while mentoring and guiding them toward um, financial prosperity. At the macro level, leaders advocate for policies that will stimulate economic growth, that will strengthen the institutions and create um, environments that is conducive to wealth creation. And they also address systemic challenges such as inequality, creating opportunities for marginalized groups, and ensuring wealth benefits all segments of society. Sound familiar, Gary? Leadership in wealth creation then is applicable in diverse contexts, from transforming resource-rich nations into diversified economies and driving corporate profitability to empowering local communities and teaching financial stewardship from the moral or spiritual perspective. Whether at a national or organizational or community level, effective leaders foster sustainable wealth creation that not only improves economic outcomes, but also enhances social well-being. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing, Frank. I love the point where you spoke about rich, resource-rich economies and develop what is known as diverse economies. And that would be the smart thing to do to up-level your resources into other productive sectors to ensure that that economy is diverse and sustainable. So there are so many spectrums to leadership, but I love the point that you would have made. I'm going to come now to Kanchan to give her thoughts on the talking point leadership. And Kanchan, on to you. You're mute.
Mm,
You're okay now.
I'm okay now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So my thoughts on leadership in my sector, in my industry, the actionable strategies that I would focus on and I would think would be useful for your audience to kind of have it as tools, as you like to say. So one of it would be, I believe that a good leader is able to spot opportunities where others see problems. That's number one. And one of the examples that I would bring up over here is, one of it would involve what Frank said is through diversification. I'm a very big believer in diversification to when it comes to wealth creation and creating a sustainable business, because when you diversify your sources, you're investing in networking. That's so important because you can't always, at least in the nature of my business in trading, trends are always changing. I'm always going to have to be keeping up with what consumers demands are, and not necessary, it is not always possible for that demand to be fulfilled from one place. So that's why we have to diversify our vendors, diversify our customers, because not one store that we sell to, they can't afford to take everything, or they don't always like what we have, and then another store might like it. And that's who we cater to then. So I think that um, diversification for me is a very, it's a great tool for a leader to kind of consider, like in their company, diversification of to diversify their business into different, I'm not saying different sectors, but still under the same umbrella. Like in for me in fashion, it's like you don't just do women's clothing, you also have to have menswear, you also have to have kids wear, you also must have socks. So it's still under the same umbrella, but you diversify and get creative with it. And again, one more thing is, a good leader for me, it's like a leader who is able to build a sustainable business, knows how to get creative, with what they have and with how they navigate the industry. Because there are times, at least in the trading business, like where I'm at, you face a lot of up and downs. And there is always a factor that's not just about the changing consumer trends, but also the economic conditions. You know, like currently, the most current examples I can like share with you is, um, you see what's going on in California today. Naturally, the sales to go towards that side will be slow. Now, we have to get creative to be like, all right, what can we do? Because this is something we anticipate that it's going to be slow for a while. As they start to recover, it's still going to be slow. So we have to get creative and see what can we do, who can we reach out to in other places and push sales to that side, as opposed to just focusing on the big area of sales that normally it's our first go to. Like between New York and LA is always our first go to, because the bigger off price fashion industry for us, the sales, the people who like to buy, the stores, the headquarters, they're in these two mainly, and then they do have in other places, yes. But this is the time where we, like, I have to sit down together with my salesman to be like, all right, who's been dormant, who have you not been contacting? It's the time to reach out to them now, and not just rely on, I mean, not rely on them, because we know they are going to take time to recover. So we have to start, not we have to start, I mean, we have to get back to basics, as in speak to your entire list. You don't just speak to one or two, you know. So that's like one of them. It's, yeah, that's my thoughts.
So diversification, it's very, very important. It's very sad what's happening in California today. Thousands of uh, lives are being affected, and billions of dollars are just going up in flame. And perhaps another day we can look at leadership and how leadership applies to that. Some is saying the reduction of the budget by $17 million is the main factor why that is happening. And of course, the representative of that office is saying that it's more complex than that. Whatever the reasons, I do believe that an essential part of good leadership is thinking ahead, is seeing beyond problems, and is being able to take informed actions to minimize disaster. Um, I think that we can definitely demand more from leaders. I'm going to now come to Atina. I would love to hear from you, Atina, on the subject of leadership.
Sure. So for my area of leadership, especially for business, are emerging. I mean, every business are emerging into the AI world a lot more now. Since last year was mostly a lot of business are just getting familiar with the tools out there. Starting from last year, we were talking about there were 15,000 tools, AI tools out there, but now we are in 26,000 more so tools out there, of AI tools out there in the market. So this is kind of how we see in the leadership for business. Is you guys probably have heard the saying in the past. This especially for business in the market, you want to figure out where the future is at and be there first. So, because that's where a lot of wealth, since we're talking about leadership associated with wealth creation, and that's why you see a lot of wealth creations happening, is because people have an insight. Well, how did you get insight? You had to be in the inner circle. And then that is why, a group of us, we get together, providing our insights to bring people together. So therefore, you have the opportunity to have insight for the what is coming up in the future. So this is kind of how we've been sharing with the businesses that we are in contact with on daily basis, is to help them prepare for the future. So what is coming up in 2025, what we'll be seeing, not only a lot of businesses will be stopped, well, not necessarily stopped, but they done enough playing with the tools Now they want to see, how do we see them integrated together in streamline? Okay, I know this tool is great for content creation. I know ChatGPT is great for creating my email and some whatever the idea for me to create things. And then I know there's other AI tools can help me generate great image. Well, exactly how do I get a comprehensive solution of all these AI tools going to really help me in business instead of playing with the tools, right? So this is where in 2025 a lot of business are looking for professionals to help them integrate it in their business. Okay, now I see enough tool, I play with enough tools, I'm comfortable with it. Give me a whole comprehensive solution. How that is going to integrate that into my business. And that's what we'll be seeing. And another thing that we'll be seeing would be the AI agents are going to be starting getting more involved. And this is where we will have the agents, kind of like when we say AI agents, in the term that we're speaking on the daily basis would be the customer service rep. So this we're going to start seeing deploying AI customer service rep. They will be training on a small part of the repetitive task. So that's why we were seeing a lot of chatbot that will be generated to actually having a conversation with you, and you will probably think you'll be talking to a real person. So that's kind of what we'll be seeing. It will be upcoming trends that is coming up that we'll be seeing more and more. And another thing is people are craving, 76% of customers are craving for hyper personalized experience. How can a business hyper personalized experience at scale? You got to use clone, right? So now the technology that we're seeing, the cloning are getting better and better. And then a lot of time when we're able to see you're talking to a robot, you'll see those awkward pause, then you know there's a little bit of a glitch, kind of like almost like a glitch, but we know that's how when we're talking to a bot. But as the technology giving 3 to 6 months into this, we'll start seeing a very smooth when we're talking to the bot, it will be a very smooth conversational. You probably won't be able to tell. So that is kind of where we're seeing. That's how you're able to provide a hyper personalized on the customer service side of it at scale. Because they are able to answer the customers, especially on the retail, on the fashion side of it. You'll be able to see, there will be a customized chatbot that able either through the clone model or through the text model that you're able to see we having a conversation back and forth before that turning from a lead to a sale. So that's kind of where we'll be seeing in that particular area. And that's how people are able to experience based on the customers are talking about. The chatbot or the clone are able to customize the conversations having with that person to customize to align with the value there and also align with their preference. So that's kind of how you're able to see the Amazon. Whenever you go shop in Amazon right now, they're able to capture based on your shopping history to recommend you what could be something that you would probably like to buy. And that's what it is at scale that we will be seeing in this upcoming 2025 and moving forward.
Mhm. I do believe that it is so important to integrate AI into business. I do believe your leadership ability to do this um, will give you a tremendous competitive advantage. I do see AI as helping you to reduce the cost of production, reducing the cost of labor, and increasing productivity. That in of itself is going to lay the foundation to significantly increase the profitability of the business. Of course, doing business is not all about the profit, but I do believe that the ability to integrate AI into the business process is an essential leadership tool, leadership ability for us to start thinking about. You know, only recently, Atina was talking with a client because we are discussing integrated tool, especially as an influencer, as a podcaster, to put out content regularly, quality content. There's a number of moving parts to that. You have to record, then you have to edit, and you may want to do some customs design that the editing template does not necessarily allows you to have. So you find that why you want to use that, because the ability to add your own flavor to it is going to give you that design and competitive advantage. So there's always demand for this. All right. But I love your talking point. What I want to do, I want to get back to where I left off. And I spoke about Wealth Builders Toolkit. And in 2025, I'm going to be spending so much of time sharing with the general public across the world a process to build wealth. Why? Because it is part of my mission, it's part of my purpose to provide people in business or rising stars, wealth builders with a content of information that's going to help to make their life much easier. Now, one of the things I spoke about early on, one of the issues I spoke about early on was wealth builders tools, wealth builders tools. And very often when we talk about tools to build wealth, it's an abstract term. And because it is an abstract term, many persons fail to get the information, fail to get the juice of what you're saying. What I will attempt to do today is to make this term a bit less abstract. So when I say wealth builders tools, what am I talking about? It's important for you to be trained to see land resources as a tool. And I will explain exactly what I'm saying here. Land resource is a tool that wealthy people all over the world use to continue building wealth. And I'm going to give some examples of how they do this. When you own land, you have agricultural land use. And you have big companies like Walmart that employs over 1 million persons. They leverage land. They find agriculturalists and they build relationship with agriculturalists. So several things happen here. They're able to get uh, factory fresh products or farm fresh products, and soon as it is ready for the market, they're able to get it at a good price. And those who are practicing agriculture, they are able to make money from this process. So I do believe that as we start to think about tools to build wealth, we need to understand land resources. And just let me give an example, another fact here. We have seen that in 2022 alone, agricultural trade in the US alone represented 196 billion US dollars. So when you want to build wealth, you want to position yourself as a leader to build wealth, you need to be clear about the tool and the realities surrounding the tools in the context of wealth creation. $191 billion, $96 billion US dollars in the US alone. It's a lot of disposable income. If you attempt to get 1% of this on your wealth building journey, you're more than a millionaire. You're now a billionaire. The second concept that I want to share on the land is mineral land use. And it's important to know this because the wealthy people in the world, they invest a lot of time and their talent and their resources to learn more about the mineral market. And if you want to build wealth, you need to know this too. Most people, the approach that they're going to use to build wealth is trading their time for money. And that could be very tiresome. That could be very limited. All right. And again, what we see in the mineral trade in the US alone in 2022, the statistics are showing that that market alone, the mineral trade market, generated 861.1 billion US dollars. All right. So are you taking the time to understand these markets and how to access land or leverage land in a way that can really position you and to build wealth? The last platform that I'm going to talk about here as a wealth building tools is real estate land use. Well, everybody know about this one, real estate land use. Now, all of the above, one may want to say they're all capital intensive, especially when it comes to becoming an investor into real estate land use. But you're correct, it may be capital intensive. But when you want to build wealth, you don't see the problem, you don't see the challenges without training your mind to find the solution. Some of the things that we talk about for wealth builders to learn, apply, and master things like group economics. All right, you may not have $100,000 to go invest in a piece of land, but guess what? Or $100,000 to put down as as 10% on $1 million plot of land. You may not have that money, but with group economics, you put together, a few of your friends, 10 friends, and each of you put $10,000. So with group economics, you are now on that journey, that wealth building journey. All right. The Wealth Builders Toolkit, we're going to help people to unlock all of this. And so they're not seeing the barriers and the challenges to position themselves for success, but they're seeing the solution and they're taking practical steps to come into their success story. Now, in terms of real estate, I just want to share some statistics looking back at 2022. The commercial transaction that we had in 2022 when it comes to real estate was $1.14 trillion that was invested in this market. Now, I can take the rest of this program, the time for this program, and I can talk about real estate because that's part of what we do. But real estate land use, there's so much of possibility. Some people do land banking. You buy the land, you hold the land for it to appreciate, and then you put it back to the market. You benefit from the appreciation and you walk away with equity. Some people buy the land and hold the land and lease the land. So they have a continuous stream of income coming in. And when the lease reaches a life cycle, the asset on the land belongs to them. So that is, a double win. And some people take the land and they, invest in the land and by building, family unit. So that in itself create multiple streams of income. And they do forced appreciation and natural appreciation. They take out the equity, they leverage the equity back into what we call the snowball of wealth creation and continue that wealth building journey. My role in 2025 is to really provide people across the world with a body of knowledge that is going to help them to win in money, all right, win in business. So we are targeting rising stars in business, but we're also targeting wealth builders, people that are serious about building wealth. You want the information and you are not willing to be overwhelmed by what we call the leadership deficit. We're going to provide you with a content of information that is going to push you forward in all aspects of your life. The last thing I want to say at this point, one of the reasons, Seven Figure Media, we are so excited about 2025 because again, our mission is to help as much people around the world to start and scale their 6, 7, and 9-figure brand, and to help, rising stars, to help the average person who want to know how to build wealth, to expose them to what we call the Wealth Builders Toolkit. So they have that step-by-step approaches that they can now use to embrace a better quality of life for themselves, a better quality of life for their family, and a better quality of life for their community. And we were excited about all of that. So I'm going to just open up the floor now and to see who want to chime in on their points or reflect on anything that I would have said. Frank, I don't know if you want to go, and then we're going to just open up to everyone else.
I got the thing about land development and minerals. And I was thinking that land and leadership in land development and mineral is essential for managing the natural resources in such a way that balances economic growth, environmental sustainability, and social responsibility. If one is an effective leader in this domain, they must have that strategic vision that integrates the long-term planning with responsible land use practices, ensuring that the resources are utilized efficiently while they're preserving an ecological balance. Leadership also requires a strong stakeholder engagement. As leaders have to work closely with the local communities, with the governments, with the private sector partners to address various concerns. They need to share the benefits. They need to foster collaboration. Moreover, policy advocacy plays that key role in promoting fair land use and sustainable mining practices, while the technological innovations such as the GIS mapping and green mining techniques will be able to optimize land development and reduce environmental impacts. A notable example of leadership in this sector is Botswana's management of the diamond industry. After they discovered diamonds in the 1960s, the government of Botswana formed a joint venture with De Beers, creating Debswana, in order to manage that country's diamond mining operations. And this partnership was built on a 50-50 revenue sharing model, which allowed Botswana to secure significant profits from its resources. Then the government reinvested these earnings into essential public services like education and healthcare, leading to increased literacy rates and improved life expectancy. Leadership in Botswana also focused on diversifying the economy, where they're using the diamond wealth to invest in sectors such as tourism, agriculture, manufacturing. With a transparent governance and practices, it helped avoid the resource curse. And this allowed the country to achieve political stability even today and steady economic growth. Today, Botswana is a successful example how responsible leadership can transform mineral wealth into sustainable development. Now, this case demonstrates the importance of equitable partnership, the importance of long-term investments in social infrastructure and transparent governance in ensuring the sustainable use of land and mineral resources. So if we follow these principles, any good effective leader can create a balance between a resource extraction and social, environmental, and economic benefits, which ultimately will foster sustainable growth and development. Over to you.
Great points. Great points. And thanks for that share. Who want to chime in now? Atina?
Well, I heard in the very beginning you were talking about the tools to use and all that to kind of help them out with in the process of accomplishing the leadership in your area. And I was just more of a thinking of, for ours area, when we're using the tools, a lot of time people are thinking, using the AI tools to solve all the problem. Those are kind of like a myth that we've been getting a lot. is people think they just need to push the button and then all the problems solved. But 70% of the business that we're looking at, they just need a good old-fashioned automation first. A lot of them don't even have a CRM system to even manage the amount of data their company have. It just recently, I was literally asking for, without giving away their private information of the company, and doesn't have any data, organized in one location. So before we even get into the appointment, I said, well, before we can even do anything with AI in your business, first, I need you to organize all your data, your company's data. Otherwise, I don't have anything to work with. And that is kind of exactly before we deliver the useful tools, because AI is just the tools. Whatever you build, AI is going to amplify that process. So if it's a great system, but if it's crap, it just amplifying crap. So it's not going to solve the problem. It's just going to make the problem even bigger. So that's why when we are helping a company to
You're right, Tatina, and that is why at the start of the program I talk about knowing the tools, but also knowing the appropriate way to use that tool. And the same thing is coming back to what you're saying. You have AI, but because people don't know the manual, the process of using the AI, they are worse off than being introduced to the AI content.
yeah,
So
yeah.
just to add to what you're saying, understanding tools, understanding processes, understanding systems, and leadership ability is vital when you want to be successful. You can continue, Tina. Back to you. I just wanted to get that point across.
Yeah, totally. And that is kind of what we step in to assist those leaders. Because a lot of time, people just want to have a clarity first. And that is kind of where as my passion is. I love to bring clarity to those leaders because they're in their day-to-day operation process. They are kind of like, how do you helping the fish in the fishbowl to see the outside world? They can't, right? So that's why they hire the outside professional to help them to see the whole pictures. And so that's why the very, very first step we are looking do the assessment for the company is really to get the whole overall the operations first to see where is the loophole or where's the bottleneck, where is the pain, the most effective area, there's where the money leak or whatever is the less productive area that is draining them the energy the most. And that's where we go first. We usually go with whatever we can create the highest impact first. And we interview the key players for that particular process, right? If we want to systematize the whole process, we need to know who's actually in charge of that process. And once we know the processes, and then we know, okay, which part of the area that we can actually using the automation, or is it really will be the area AI can intervene to actually take care of the repetitive task that the human don't need to do? Because this is usually what is draining the human the energy. It's like, why do I have to do what a machine can do, right? So that is kind of where when we are actually narrowed down to those particular areas, department by department. And then that's how we're able to be step by step, piece by piece. We go from one department to next department. We start with marketing, right? Because a lot of time people just don't want you to come into their company and shake their whole systems. Like, I don't want you to freaking mess things up. I built this over 20 years. I don't want you to just come in and stir it in the pot and you might ruin my whole entire system. System impact is what most leaders are afraid. And that's what it's fine. That's what we're starting with the marketing area. Why don't I create the area you haven't even seen the possibility yet? How about I have increased the revenue in this area that you never explored and you get to see the benefit of? I'm not tapping into the area you already accumulated with your wealth. And that's what people are okay with that. And so we usually start with the marketing and sales because people can see immediate result. And then we just work. Once they build at that comfort level, they see the result, and they want you to start going into the, okay, now can you go into my admin department or my customer service department? Maybe my sales team needs some trainings, because a lot of times their top salesperson, they're leading the team. They don't want to spend their time training there, but it's like, how many freaking times I had to say this over and over? And that's what we were able to, using the AI avatar, the clone, we can capture, we can record that salesperson's closing process. Now we have the data, we can feed into the machine and create how this person closing the sales, and create a training manual for the rest of the team. So now that top salesperson do not have to repeating himself or herself over and over again to train rest of the team. There is already a model of the training videos created for the rest of the team to follow how the top salesperson closing the sales. And that is one of the way how the company could be optimize their internal leadership, and that is on the sales part of the area.
Great. And that's the importance of having systems, because it brings transparency, it brings accountability, it brings consistency, it brings traceability, it brings scalability, transferability, and optimization. So, there are many rising stars in business that sometimes walk away with the idea that doing business is easy. Um, you can build wealth from business, it's possible, but doing business is not easy, particularly so if you want to do this alone. The other mistake that I see many rising stars in business do, they start a business and it's me, myself, and I. And that's a recipe to shoot yourself 10,000 times in the leg. That means that you're literally crippling yourself. Um, in business, you need to have that strategic level of leadership. You need to have that tactical level of leadership, and you need to have the operational level of leadership. So it can help you to free up time where you're focusing perhaps at a 10 or 20% most important area of the business, and the rest is delegated out to competent resources. It's the ability to do this, Atina, finding your 10 or 20% and delegating the 80 to 90% is what's going to really allow that business to function the way it's supposed to function. It's finding the competent people, leaders, to play at all of the strategic, tactical, and operational. I do believe that while AI is important, and we hear a lot from you in terms of AI, and I do believe that we need to integrate AI into what we are doing, there are some soft social skills that is necessary to also make that business successful. Relationships. So if you're doing business and you don't have a relationship building ecosystem, you're going to be compromised. Only today I released a program where we talk about levels of connection. Some people connect with their ideal clients, ideal consumers, but they connect with them at a surface level. But connecting with them at a surface level doesn't allow you to have continuity in consumption. And what you need for the sustainability of that business is continuity in consumption. So how do you move from level 1 connection to level 2 connection to level 3 connection, where you have customer retention and customer loyalty? You have to fill the relationship gaps. And that's something that we're going to be talking a lot about. So Kanchan, your thoughts?
I'm going to jump into what you just said in regards to relationships,
Correct.
because that's one of the assets of what we need to have. I mean, the assets of our business is our network. Without the vendors that we work with, without the customers we work with, like, we are going to be nowhere. So does the systems in our company, like what Athena is saying about systems, like, it's so important as well, because um when it comes to relationships, of course the vendors and the customers, like what I said, is important, but it's also the relationship within the team in the company is also very important. And with every one of them following what like basically taking, how do I put it into words, like they're taking into account the finances of the company, the condition of the company, and how they want to move forward. How I'm going to explain this with an example because it's easier to put my thought across. Like I was working before in a company that the boss is the leader of the company in this case. Okay, so he likes to get feedback from his team, including myself. Okay, and but there are instances that he would not follow his own system that he implemented, and that caused a lot of issues in terms of the buying that we did, because it he ended up using, which is, this is a little bit of a downside and sometimes it does happen, which is why I'm bringing it up. He ended up using the whole idea of a power play. He brings it into the business, and that screwed up a lot of the buying that we did. Like one of the examples is
Tina, Kanchan, just a quick question on what you're saying.
yeah,
You're raising a point, and I just want to be clear on it,
yeah.
because what you're saying do happen. But you
Hmm.
mentioned the boss creating the system and deviating from it. The
Yes.
question I want to ask you there:
Hmm.
did he create the system, or did some leaders within the organization, either internal to external to the company, would have developed the SOPs?
No,
Do you
it's
have
he
that
who
type of
created the
information?
system.
He created it.
Yeah, he created. So like I'll give you an example. He would create a system where he'll tell me, let's not buy before we get a bite. For example, if I get an Eddie Bauer t-shirt, for example, I have to show it to a couple of customers first. When I get people saying, hey, I'm interested, or somebody will say, what's the price, like when I start to get a bite, basically some interest, then that's when we start negotiating, we start buying. It's pre-selling. It makes sense for him at that point of time, because he's like, at least we are buying something, it arrives here, we can send it out, good for the money flow also, right? I agree with that, you know. But I also agree with the fact that that we also encounter slow seasons like December and January, where shipping would be backed up, people would be on holidays, things would be very slow. And I also agree with the fact that we got to keep some stock with us, not overdo it, because it will be a lot of dead inventory for 2 months, dead money,
Mhm.
sorry, for 2 months. But when the time comes and this whole back shipping backed up and people on holidays happen, you are not you are not in a position to say, hey, I don't have enough sales to make because I don't have enough inventory to show. So that system was not something he considered. He only wanted to pre-sell. So that was one of the issues that happened, was during the dry months, he was so stressed out about the finances and about the sales. Another thing that he deviated from his own system was, the one that I mentioned, power play. Is This is what I think it's so important as well. um we work with a lot of big brands, as I mentioned before. There was an instance in my previous company where we were offered major quantity of goods. We're talking about 2 million of say Target store goods. Okay, it was a style that is like one style, say the polo shirt you're wearing in 5 colors, but 2 million pieces. It's like, it's and for him, he got excited because for him it's like, oh my god, I get to work with Target directly, not from abroad, not from importing from jobbers or whatever, but it's, I get to work with Target directly. And
I
what happens,
understand. Yeah,
he bought
I
it
understand.
and
Hmm.
he got stuck with it. And it's all because he's like, how can I pass up on such an incredible price, and how can I pass up working with Target directly? But the thing is, there's a point in that, but there's also something you're not thinking about. You are going to get higher warehouse charges because nobody purchases 2 million in a heartbeat. The market is not the same as pre-COVID. It's different. It's, people are more careful of what they buy. People are more, they don't want major quantities of one style and 5 colors. they will take a lot from you. But if you have a gazillion styles too, so they can cater
Yeah.
to changing trends,
What I'm taking away from what you were
you know?
saying, Ken Chan,
Mhm.
is that people may have systems,
Mhm.
but they may not be grounded in the systems, which can
Correct.
create frustration
Yeah.
in the leadership ecosystem.
Mhm.
You're close to that. You're either close or work close to that individual. Are you able to diagnose um, the reasons for deviating from the the process?
Overexcited due to the power play, due to being able to be connected with a big brand. That's the reason, purely the reason. How can you pass up? That's what he tells me. How do you think I would be able to pass up this opportunity with such a low price
Yeah.
he's giving me,
What
and I can
what I'm
network with Target directly. And the only thing I tell him is your storage is going to be more expensive than your garment.
Yeah, what I'm also seeing there, because in business we always talk about um, staying away from emotional decisions,
Mhm.
but using data to, to inform every decision that you're going to be making in
Yeah.
business. So what I'm also seeing here very clear, he's not following the data, he's not following the science.
Like what you're saying, emotional decision making. Exactly, that's what happened.
A
You know,
recipe for
and
disaster.
it was not thinking about what's going to happen today. Somebody buys 1 million of the units, which is, again, it doesn't happen in the history of my industry. Well, nobody buys 1 million at one shot. They'll buy 100,000 pieces at one shot. Sure. Now what happens to your warehouse today? The warehouse charges you 55 cents per what you call it, per piece. By the time you sit with that for 3 years, how much is it going to cost you? It's gonna get, it came out from his own words recently when I interacted with him just to say hi, happy new year, whatever. I just asked, I was just so curious because that's something I witnessed. So I just, out of curiosity, I'm like, did you, it's been 3 years, did you ever finish selling that 2 million sweaters? He's like, you know what, I'm still stuck with it. That's number one. And then secondly, he's like, get dealing with this 2 million pieces of sweaters, I there is so much headache that the profit that I'm making, I just realized is as good as buying only 10,000 pieces.
Great.
I'm
And
like,
I want to
oh,
emphasize, yeah, I want to
yeah.
emphasize tools, processes, systems, leadership. Just don't, get as much information from the people around you, from your consultant, your coach, your
Yeah,
mentor,
yeah.
about leadership, process, systems, and leadership ability.
Mhm.
And stick to the science. I'm trusting that you can find someone that believes in the science, because I would normally say something, when you have the science gives you the high reward, it gives you the best practices, it gives you the measurable results, the predictable outcome with the highest degree of
Mm.
accuracy. Science don't lie. I do believe that the reason that many people go through their own struggles and challenges is because they are not following the science.
Mhm.
This is the time that everybody is going to do their New Year resolution.
I think Barbara
And
is going to have a little different say on that. This is Barbara Corgan from she science.
I'm not hearing you, Peter. For some reason, I'm not hearing you
There's a
clear.
background noise in Athena.
No, I wasn't. I don't have a background noise. Okay, now it's okay. Okay, so I'm just saying, Barbara Corgan will have an argument with you about that. This is funny. That was exactly what I heard when he was sharing about who to pick to from the Shark Tank. And then people was asking her exactly the same question, and she said, "Yes, I do based on the data and insight, but the bottom line is I'm always trusting my gut." Isn't that interesting? I was actually kind of surprised when I heard that. I was like, oh wow, the bottom line is they trust their intuition. If something doesn't feel right, even the data proving every single thing she should pull forward, she was still trusting the final decision, still her gut. So I don't know. You guys can have a
I
Uh,
believe in the
one
data,
thing,
yes, but I
yeah,
also believe in what Athena says, the intuition, because there are certain deals that I work with. Also, sometimes, oh, it looks great. Oh, it goes back and forth. Oh, it looks amazing, like the most amazing offer, but I just don't have a good feeling about it. And I'd be like, you know what? I don't think this is a good deal. That's I just put it on the table. He wants to listen, he doesn't want to listen. That's his call, you know. And a lot of the times, I mean, I don't mean to brag or something, but 90% out of the time, I'm always right. Because I don't do things emotionally. I mean, like, I go with my gut, yes, but I don't I and, like, it doesn't excite me if a big brand wants to work with me. Yes, I appreciate it. I'm like, oh my god, the acknowledgement is great, yes, but I will still go through the data. So that's when what you say come in, Gary. Like, I'll still go to the data. Will the costing make sense? Will this make sense? Will that make sense? Like, is it good for my profile to be working with this brand? Excellent. But will this deal kill me at some point? Yes. So
So I
what does our intuition say? No.
think your
Go
boss,
for it.
maybe
Yeah.
it's just my hallucination. Maybe your boss
No.
are not looking for the current revenue. Is probably looking for more of the long term. That's just my
It's not about the long term, Athena. When he had that in mind, he wanted to kind of solve the problem of the dry 2 months. Yeah. But then, without thinking about the fact that nobody's going to buy that unit within 2 months. And I say this based on the data. I
Mhm.
see the system, I see the previous sales. So
I
I
think that's
want
a prime.
everyone.
I think
Yeah.
that's a prime example of following your gut.
Yeah, so he wasn't
So
following his
you
gut. He
know,
was so happy. I mean, he was going with the whole oh my god, how can I pass up working with this company? I'm like, but you're not looking at the data.
Yeah.
mhm,
So the data
that's
is
following the
it's
gut.
not good for us. It's gonna
Because
block you financially, and it's gonna
I
stop
do
growth,
believe, I do believe that when you do the legwork
Yeah.
and you get the data, you follow the science. You
You
don't need to depend on gut feelings, all right? Because gut feeling is a double-edged sword, all right? And you lean to gut feelings sometimes when you don't have enough information, all right, about the practical steps that you should take. Yes, gut feeling may have its relevant, but I do believe that being able to follow the science of starting and scaling a business, the science of businesses that grows the fastest, based on market realities, instead of saying using a gut feeling is a double-edged sword. However, great point to Tina. Love your point, but I would definitely love to have a debate with your mentor on the power of gut feeling.
I heard the come
Uh,
on. So
I'm gonna make one last statement on the well building tools, and then I'm gonna open up for everyone to give their closing thoughts in relation to their talking point. I'll start with Frank. Now, in my last presentation, I spoke about wealth builders tools, and if you're going to be building wealth in 2025, it's important you understand the tools. In my last discussion, I talked about land resources and I showed three different aspects of land resources. Now I want to talk very briefly about labor resources. Wealthy people understand division of labor and they understand how to optimize the labor market to their advantage. I will not get into all of that today, but this is a high level overview, something for you to think about. The third concept that I want you to consider as you start to think, do your deep thoughts about wealth creation, is to understand capital resources. You see, there are many persons in the world today, you have big dreams and hopes and aspiration, but then you struggle with capital. And I would say to people that there's no shortage of capital. Where capital is short is because there's a leadership deficit. When we talk of capital resources, we're talking about debt and equity. We're talking about credit and creative financing. We're talking about hard money lending. But you can also raise capital through group economics. You can become a major investor without investing a dime of your personal money because you're a great leader and you understand the power of relationships and you know how to bring the right people to get in the room. So you're the brain and they're the investors. You own equity in the portfolio. So there's so much to understand about capital resources and really push yourself to have this wealth builder's mindset. To understand capital as a tool is what's going to make a big difference. In our program that we have developed at Seven Figure Media, we not only help you to understand capital portfolios, we not only help you to understand how to access capital portfolios, but we go two steps further. We help you to understand smart ways to leverage your capital so it doesn't become a liability, but it becomes an asset, an income producing asset that can pay you for the rest of your life and for generations to come. We put a lot of focus on this. And we also place emphasis on capital mitigation. Because if you understand capital resources, but then you don't understand capital resources, there's a big gap in your knowledge. We call that knowledge deficit. And that knowledge deficit can cost you thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and millions of dollars as you navigate the financial world or on your wealth building journey. So these are things that you need to understand. And in 2025, it is my responsibility, it's our responsibility at Seven Figure Media to ensure that you have this body of knowledge. Last but not least, we will talk about commercial resources because this is another tool to build wealth. So when I talk of commerce, I talk of trade, and I'm talking here of business. But do you know the best type of businesses that you can start that guarantees to give you cash flow within the shortest possible time? Data will help you to understand this. All right? Data, not necessarily gut feeling, data.
He just had to say it. Barbara, look at this channel. We're going to interview you.
I gotta beat up on you a little bit, right? I'm kidding. Oh my. Yeah. So in commercial resources, you have so many different types of businesses to consider. You have, AI automation, you have, cosmetology sector, you have consultancy industry, you have various type of businesses. But the facts are showing that not all businesses that start is necessary. Not all businesses that start succeed. But what we are seeing that if you want to be successful in the commercial sector, it's important for you to understand the stress test ladder. All right, how to stress test your market before you actually get into it. And stress test meaning that you're taking the time to understand who is your ideal client. All right, so you can create brand relevance, but you may be able to identify who is your ideal consumer. But how do you get to that point to say to yourself, it makes sense to do this? All right, the market is viable. You don't know that. That's an emotional decision. If you are starting business and you cannot predetermine the viability of that market, and how do you know this? You need to look at things like your market size, your market density, your market dispersion. You need to do things like doing your SWOT analysis, your pest analysis, the PESTO analysis. So these are some of the things that we're going to be getting into in 2025 to ensure that you are a part of a community. All right. What you're interfacing with here is not Gary Thompson alone. It's a community, and each of us, we have our own area or areas of strengths that we represent. And we're going to share those strengths with you because we want you to be successful. So Frank is going to help you to understand leadership and economics. Attain is going to help you to understand AI automation. Kanchan is going to help you to understand fashion consultancy and so much more. We are saying to you, if you want to be successful in 2025, it makes sense to get the right mentor. It makes sense to get the right coaches. It makes sense to get the right sponsors on your side. It makes sense to be part of a supportive community. And you can find all of that right here. All right. If you want to access capital to grow and scale your business, go to the description of this video right now. right now. And you're going to see MB Capital. You're going to see Credit Suite. You're going to see DV. All of these players help you to access capital. And if you need help, reach out to us. All right. You can even access capital at 0% APR, no interest rate. So I trust that you're feeling the joy and happiness and excitement that I get to serve you, to position you to start and scale your 6, 7, and 9-figure brand, to help rising stars to be successful, but also to help the average person who wants to know how to build wealth, to really learn the process and be part of a community that wants to push you forward. So with that, I will yield my mic and I will turn to Frank now. And you can give your thoughts and then we can go to our closing remarks. Frank, all to you.
Yes, thanks, Gary. We will talk about wealth creation and leadership. I believe it is an essential aspect of effective leadership because it drives economic growth, it fosters innovation, and enhances the overall equality of life for communities. If you have a visionary leader, he or she is able to recognize the importance of generating sustainable wealth, not only for the personal or organizational gain, but also for societal progress. And this involves with adopting a strategic mindset that will be able to identify opportunities, be able to mobilize resources, and inspire collective action towards shared goals. We must realize that leaders play a pivotal role in fostering an environment that encourages creativity, investment, and entrepreneurship. By promoting policies and practices that stimulate economic activities, they in turn enable the creation of jobs, improve livelihoods, expand access to resources. Moreover, wealth creation in leadership goes beyond financial prosperity. You see, it encompasses the development of intellectual, social, and cultural capital that contributes to holistic growth. Equally important, equally important is ethical stewardship in wealth creation, the process of wealth creation. So the leaders have to balance the pursuit of profit with principles of sustainability and equity, ensuring that wealth generation does not come at the expense of environmental degradation or social inequality. It calls for transparency, decision making, accountability, and a commitment to serve the greater good. And ultimately, those leaders who prioritize wealth creation set a foundation for enduring success because they inspire trust. They build resilient organizations and contribute to the long-term prosperity of their communities, which inevitably will leave a lasting legacy that extends far beyond their tenure. Thanks.
Wow. That was deep. That was deep. I love what you said in the context of, as you get out there to embark on your journey to build wealth, there must be equity and fairness. There must be a consciousness of your effort and the impact it's going to have on the environment. It should be more positive rather than negative. And people should feel as though, they're part of that growth process. I wish this kind of conversation, and not only conversation, but way of thinking, can be more commonplace and more easily adopted into the organization. Thanks for that share, Frank. All right, Atina, your
Yeah.
closing thoughts?
So for me, I know I've been talking a lot about AI and how the technology to do amazing things and all that, but really the deep down for me, the mission is I want ultimately the AI help us become a better human. When I say that, it is because we are not designed to do those mundane, repetitive tasks those machine can do. So what I'm being seeing is just more and more of how we differentiate self our job from the mundane task, and then human should be doing more of a creative work and more innovative. And that's why we are able to keep evolving as a human to be a better human and to make a better world. So that's kind of how I'm being seen, how we could become more, you would say, more of an allocate our own task, and then to have the AI to help us stimulate the idea so we can actually create a better environment, like what we were talking about, be a better leader, be a better person for the people around us, is to really using those technology for the highest good. So that's kind of how I'm seeing where we the direction we're going. It is now human are going to be trained to think creatively, to start having almost, I almost feel like it's become a child again. You get to be very imaginally what you want to create, who you want to be. And that we are able to dive in this deeper in the future, of course. And that is how I want to see the world is we human will be collaborating with each other, and then not only increase the human awareness, and then so we can separate the job from the machine job and the human job, and then we can train the machine to fulfill our dream and goals, and the bigger dream that we probably were never able to imagine.
That's pretty interesting. Um, the machine help human to do the heavy lifting, and it gives human an opportunity to flop their wings and fly. Um, that's a great concept. Very great concept. I do believe that with more time available to human, we can definitely focus on self-actualization, which is a deep subject matter, and really evolve to better understand nature, to better understand life, and truly fulfill a higher purpose on
It
earth.
is.
Great share. Kanchan, you're mute, Kanchan.
Hi.
Yeah.
Okay, now you can hear me. Okay. So I think for me, leadership is just not about achieving financial success, but it is also about creating, and I say leadership in relation to wealth creation starts with making smart decisions every day. And those decisions are what's going to impact the sustainability of your business, and it's going to be impacting the people you work with as well, including your teams, because when you make the right decisions, and when you make the decisions that is like that uh, when the decisions that you make is going to impact the team that you work with, in the sense that you are going to encourage your team to leverage their strengths. You're going to be able to optimize resources through your networks as well, and you can also empower your team, like through that, through making better decisions, you can empower your team to be more creative and more like pumped up when it comes to doing their work, like to, like for example, you could motivate your sales team better. If your system, you do your system correctly, you also make a difference for your sales team to do their work. Otherwise it could be demotivating for some of the workers who work with you. So I think it's, the core thing is, you gotta make you got to really think of the decisions that you make and understand that it's going to impact every aspect of the business, from the finances, from the people, and everything. So making the right, I wouldn't say the right decision, it's not our decisions. I mean, we're humans, sometimes we can make mistakes, but at least giving it a mulling over those thoughts and really thinking like, okay, this is the way I want to go for it, is as smart as you can possibly make that decision. That's what we should do. A well thought of decision.
Well thought out decision. I love that.
Hmm.
I want to end by saying that as I look at business, I look at leadership, I look at people around the world, I do believe that there is a massive relationship deficit and there's a massive deeper connection deficit. And I do believe it is hurting humanity in itself. I do believe that sometimes you see that people have better relationships the with a computer, with a phone, than they have relationship with humanity. And what I want to say in conclusion, it is my advice, to young people and people around the world, invest in building healthy, productive relationship with people. All right, invest in that. And once you start to invest in that, the next step that you want to go for is what we call deeper connection, because people rise and fall on relationship. If you have the right relationships with the right people, you're better placed to be successful than someone that don't have that relationship. So in 2025, I want you to listen to my humble advice and invest more in relationships. Kanchan is smiling. I'm a humble person. All right, guys, I must say it has been such a pleasure being with you today. 2025, I think we have a very, very good start in 2025. And again, I wish all of you guys, all of you wish yourself in so much more. And I wish you even better luck as you step out there to touch and transform the world with your respective skill sets. Be blessed and see you in the next broadcast.